What's happening to those international patrons? This is Adi, and I am back from the motherland. Finally, I do apologize for the delay, but I am here to chat with you guys about Gabriel Strefezza, the signing that we brought in about a little over a week ago, a player that's coming in from Como. And again, I'm sorry for the delay on this scouting report. I just returned from Greece. The Wi Fi situation was awful, at least where I was going. For those of you that I spoke to, you guys know that I was up in Yanina. I was in Greece for a wedding, and then we went up to the Chorio, and the Wi Fi situation was terrible. So, could not get the scouting report done in Greece. Did not go to my family's place that has Wi Fi. So, that's why this is a little bit delayed. And of course, the kids don't really help either. Last time I did these scouting reports, I don't think I had children, or maybe I had one. It's hard to remember. But whatever the case was, I didn't have the issue that was this year, which was having zero time to do the report. So anyway, I am here to give you the scoop on Gabriel Strefezza. Olympiacos signed him from Como, like I said, just over a week ago for a total package worth 8 million euros. The initial fee in the realm of 5 million euros, that's what we've been told by our sources, with 3 million in total bonuses. So an 8 million total package, 5 million down with 3 million in bonuses. And he has signed a contract until 2029. So let's get chatting about Gabriel Strefezza. So for those of you who are not familiar with the player, 28 years old, right-footed right winger. So his primary position has been to play on the right wing. He can play left wing as an inverted left winger, and he's also played at the striker position. So I've seen, not for long stretches of time, he can play also central and somewhat behind the striker. It was not very often, usually during the run of play. But so we've seen those movements there as well. But primarily a right winger that also has played a lot on the left for Como. Strefezza's profile involves a low center of gravity, which shouldn't surprise you. He's a short guy. And for those of you that don't know his measurements, in US, he's 5'6", which is about 168 centimeters, 63 kilos, 138 pounds, which is not much. That's about 30 pounds less than I weigh right now, and I'm a couple inches taller than he is. So not a very heavy person, but the profile with him on the ball, very low center of gravity. And you would think because he's so small that maybe he could get pushed off the ball, but he actually doesn't. He's got very quick feet. You'll see a lot of touches with the laces of his boot. So fast touches with the laces. And as he gets close to a defender, he's always looking to kind of cut quickly with his right foot, to cut inside. Loves to make that cut inside. Or what he'll do is you'll see him kind of touch the ball to kick it over to his left foot as well, and get things moving on the left side. So we see a lot of that, either him pushing the ball with his right to his left foot or cutting inside from his right foot. We don't see a lot of that movement from his left foot. The touches with his left foot are a little bit more basic. He does use his laces there as well, but you're not going to see him try to do a lot of the cuts in and outside from the left foot. So just bear that in mind. Fancy footwork wise, flair. We like to talk about flair with some of our wingers. You're not going to see a lot of that with Gabriel Strefezza. He's pretty straightforward. He's agile and he's got some speed to him. So, but where his advantages and what he does well on the dribble is getting close into the defender while he's touching the boot with his laces, and then he's able to just quickly change position depending on the movement of the defender and cut inside. So that's where you're going to see him most effectively part away from defenders if he's able to do that. He likes to do some head feints here and there, so you'll see him kind of head feint right, go left, and he catches defenders that way a little bit, but that's about as good as it gets. No step overs, really. Didn't see a lot of like Cruyff cutbacks. So that's really what you're getting. But he keeps the ball very close to his body, and it's just a chore for defenders to try and dispossess him because he can move and switch directions very well. Similar in a manner as I explained to you with Diogo Nascimento, but his big thing is really that cut right. Now, Strefezza is the right-footed right winger option that Mendilibar wants. And he's one of the two winger signings that the club is going to make before the end of the window. So another one is expected, a left-footed left winger. And the major question on everybody's mind with regards to Strefezza, even as we've watched him now through a couple of friendlies, did we find a player that can give us what we lacked last season for a total package value of 8 million, which is this is the most expensive fee, assuming we pay the bonus, that we've paid since Daniel Podence. So it's a big fee, and there's a lot to talk about here in regards to whether or not what we paid is worth what we are going to see or what we are going to get at the very least from what we think we'll get from the player. Now, as always, for those of you, if this is one of the first scouting reports that you're watching, I know a lot of you are a little bit more accustomed to these. Some of you aren't. We always get one or two new patrons in before some of these scouting reports come out. So, if this is your first scouting report and you're tuning in for the first time, we always start with goal creation. And in this table, this bar chart, the goal creation stats are in the red. So everything there is with regards to goal creation. So we see Strefezza sits well above the median in Italy for just about everything. XG, goals, shot volume, touches. I mean, his end product overall is pretty impressive. His goals were scored, a lot of them from distance, around the top of the penalty area and further out. He has a nice bit of power, which makes his shots from distance pretty scary. And his placement, especially up close, is equally frustrating for the goalkeeper. He does pick corners out pretty well, something that we missed last year when people just shot to shot. He takes a number of penalties, so he saw a number of goals from the penalty spot during his career, and a surprising number that came from free kicks. So something to watch out for. He has a pretty decent free kick as well. Other shot opportunities came from much of the same situations he scored from, with the exception of volleys off of crosses. I never saw him score from one of those situations where he was on the end of a cross and ripped it first time. He gets quite a few of those opportunities, or at least he did under Como in both Serie B and Serie A, but he never scored them. So curious to see how that, if anything like that, materializes in Greece when he's playing on the right side. At his most dangerous, if he is able to catch the defender when he's playing on the left side with that quick cut right, and he gets space from the right side, like just going inside the penalty area, usually there at the top near the center. If he's able to catch the defender and get space for the shot, really dangerous shot, remarkably effective. But playing on the right side, we're not going to see as much shooting productivity from him because he shoots most of his shots that I watched from the past few seasons. It was close to 70% came from cutting in on that left side, not from that right side. So if he's going to be playing more on the right, which we expect from Mendilibar, then you're not going to see as much shot volume. If Mendilibar does rotate him to the left, which he's known to do, he rotates our wingers, you're going to see more shots if he's able to get more playing time on that left side. So it'll be curious to see how Mendilibar rotates, but he is bringing him in primarily as a right winger because he's right-footed. Assist volume. Both his assists and expected assists well above the median in Serie A. So when we like to see that because a high expected assist also means that the production is sustainable. The quality of chances is good. So we expect that he could continue to produce that. When you overshoot your expected assists, it means that you're overperforming. Maybe that production isn't sustainable. If you're underperforming, it means that there were some finishing issues, but the level of production should be higher if you continue to do so. So we like to see that both are either equal or that at the very case that he's not overperforming and that it just happened once a season. As far as the context for his assists, a lot came from crosses from the right side. On the left side, while he did have a couple of crosses for assists, like one or two, he mostly ends up passing the ball on the ground, 5 to 8 meters usually into the penalty area, sliding the ball through to one of his players running on or behind the defender if he's able to draw them to him. The pattern with Strefezza is very clear. On the right side, he will more likely get to the byline or get up the field and cross the ball in. On the left, he will look to draw the defender to take a shot. So that's what you get with Strefezza. And it will be a very nice piece for Mendilibar, knowing how he adjusts his play style on the right or the left, how he can use him both in Greece and Champions League. If he wants more shots, he'll move him to the left. If he wants him to provide more service into the penalty area, he will shift him over to the right. So generally, he will try to shoot more on the left. And when he's on the right, he will be crossing from the right side into the penalty area. If we're talking Mendilibar, it means we're probably going to be seeing him primarily play on the right side. That's why Mendilibar wants a right-footed right winger, because he likes crosses. So you probably will only see him play left a few minutes here and there as he's switching throughout the match. Next, we're going to take a look at build-up and possession. So how he assists his team getting into the final third, transitioning out of our defensive third. And from the outset, we can see in the possession stats, which are in white. It's that top group of statistics on the bar chart in the white. We can see a lot of his touch counts, a lot of his total volume is below the median in various phases. Now, before you panic and think this guy's useless in build-up, a lot of this has to do with the fact that Como's reduced number of transitions in the final third. They have a less number compared to what Olympiacos has at the very least, or at least in this case, compared to what the competition has in Serie A. So they're a team that plays mid to low block. So they're going to transition on the counter and they're going to absorb pressure until they get those openings. So you will see less touches as a team, which this is the case. They see less touches as a team compared to a lot of other teams. So that being said, Strefezza is more of an outlet and he receives the ball going into transition. So he's not at the center of it. He's not at the center of possession. He's not distributing the ball here and there. Not that he can't do it. He just doesn't for Como. So it didn't matter what the setup was, whether Como was playing in a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, a 3-5-2. He was always on that wider outlet, receiving the ball, taking action in the final third. Or at the very least, if he was on a counter, he would be receiving the ball in the transition to the final third and be going in from the entry to the final third into the penalty area. Those are really the situations that we saw. And in the situations where he was involved with buildup, it was usually involved pass and move, quick one touches to create space to get himself forward, whether it was on the flank or going a little bit more center. But we did see him stick a lot more to the outside line. Usually, it meant him playing the ball to his teammates very close, dribbling defenders here and there. I didn't see a lot of evidence of him, even in the situations where he did get central, like cutting the lines for his teammates that were running on. So don't expect a lot more of those, what we would call quote unquote smart passes, because I didn't see too much of that. He benefits also from having a fast overlapping wingback, a fullback that can pull the wide defender, because then that gives him more space to run central. So very useful for him to have somebody like that. And I'm not sure how well Ortega will be that fit for him, but I do believe at the very least that a player like Bruno maybe would be able to give him more assistance, especially to cover also on the defensive side of things. Now, speaking of defense, that yellow part there is the defensive attributes. And the really big question mark here with respect to what Strefezza can do with Mendilibar is the press. How can he assimilate in the press? The scheme at Como was completely different. Como was mid-block, low-block team for the most part. And the pressing scheme had nothing to do with what his role would be under Mendilibar. Even in situations where he was pressing higher up, I saw no evidence that he could directly operate in the manner Mendilibar wants. The only silver lining is that physically he has the traits. He can run all day. He's capable of doing what Mendilibar wants physically. But whether or not he can actually work the press is something I have no idea, because the system was completely different. And this is the risk right here. Can he work in a high press environment? We'll find out. Can he do Mendilibar's high press environment? In situations where he was further up the field pressing for Como, he was kind of on his own, doing his own thing. It didn't look like it was coordinated. So it's hard for me to tell. So we're going to need some patience here. We're going to see if he can coordinate well with Chiquinho. Can he coordinate well with El Kabi? I don't know. So if he's a little bit off pace to start the season with us, don't be surprised. Now, as far as his ability in the air, despite having decent positioning and especially tenacity, his short stature is not conducive to aerial duels. So I'm not expecting a lot of wins here, and you can tell from the chart he didn't win a lot of them in Serie A. Now, up next, as we always do, we do a comparison with a player. In this case, I did a comparison to the one and only Gelson Martin. So this is the first chart I'm going to show you here. This is the radar chart that compares Gelson and Strefezza as is. Gelson's last season with Olympiacos versus Strefezza at Como. And I'm going to start doing things in the scouting reports. I'm going to add more of these charts to show progression, because a lot of people saw this chart and said, oh my God, we're getting a terrible player. We're paying $8 million for somebody that's worse than Gelson. And that's not true. There is a very big gap between what you see, with many respect, with Gelson and what Strefezza did in Italy. And the major difference that you see right here on the chart, you do see that Strefezza has a better end product than what Gelson offers. But then everything else, you see Gelson far and away more volume, and in some cases better success. However, before you start making this opinion on Strefezza, I need to remind you that part of the reason that Strefezza's web here, his polygon, is worse than Gelson's is because he had 35% less touches with Como than Gelson did with Olympiacos. I'll repeat that. Olympiacos sees 35% more touches in the final third and the penalty area than Como does in Serie A, or at least as more than they did last season. So Gelson's web is bigger in part due to the fact that he gets more touches. If we're not talking about success and we're looking at overall, success percentage, things like that, and we're just looking at the value of what's being done here as a function of that success, it does get skewed by the amount of volume that Gelson has. So Olympiacos attacks more. Therefore, Gelson will see, even if he has a similar success rate of Strefezza, we will see that he has a bigger web as a result. So what I then decided to do was I wanted to show you that Gelson, what Gelson's web looked like when he left and came to Olympiacos. So this here is Gelson from, the red is Gelson from last season at Olympiacos. The yellow is Gelson before he joined Olympiacos. And as you can see, Gelson, when he came from, I think the last full season he played was actually at Monaco. Sorry. So the last full season at Monaco, you see that his web is smaller because Monaco, even though they are a more attacking team and they get more touches probably than Como did in Serie A in the final third in the penalty area, his web was smaller because it was less than what Olympiacos gets in Greece. Olympiacos is a bigger fish. We possess more. We attack more. So you will see more opportunities. So looking at this transition of Gelson from France to Olympiacos to the Greek league, you see an increase. So I'm going to show you another web now. This is an estimation using the same principle of Gelson's transition. So Gelson, based on how many more touches he had and his success rate, I took that principle and I applied it to Strefezza. So in other words, I made the assumption that Strefezza's success rates do not change. But based on the change in the number of opportunities Olympiacos has and how many touches Gelson saw as a result of that change, I then took that and I applied it to Strefezza to estimate what his touch count would be and what his web would look like. And as you see here, it's a lot closer now to what Gelson does. So assuming the success rate of Strefezza does not change with regards to his final product, the number, how many dribbles he's successful in, that percentage, you see that this player with more touches should be able to do similar to what Gelson does for Olympiacos. Now, guys, it's not an exact science, I know. And the context for the difference is much different. Like I said, Strefezza's time at Como, he saw 35% less touches in the attacking third. So his disparity between what was being done at Como versus Olympiacos was bigger than Gelson when Gelson came from France to Olympiacos. So Gelson's increase should be ideally smaller than the increase we should see in Strefezza. Now, there's also another reality here. We can't reasonably suspect that Strefezza will improve or even stay the same in every facet. Like with Gelson regressed in a couple of things. Gelson's end product got worse when he came to Olympiacos. So we might see a regression in a couple of things for Strefezza. So we don't know if Strefezza is going to adapt to the system. Maybe that makes him less effective, or maybe his focus on the defensive positioning means he gets into less offensive opportunities. These are all risks here. These are all things that we can't account for because we don't know. But the assumption here is that assuming Strefezza's effectiveness doesn't change, we should see a productive winger very similar to Gelson just because of the volume of opportunities will increase. Now, if I'm cutting through the massive overshare I just gave you of the stats, the real difference between Gelson and Strefezza is the end product. Gelson's dribbling ability and speed are incredible. He's super useful, as we've all seen, in getting us into the final third. He was also our second highest goal contributor last season. So even with that poor end product, he was the second best goal contributor we had on the team. Strefezza doesn't have his speed, but he sure has great ability on the ball, a cannon of a shot, and a much better cross than Gelson has. So in the end, it represents a profile, two different profiles here, that can impact our offense in different ways. And that's what you should be taking from this. It's not Strefezza's better than Gelson or Gelson's better than Strefezza. Does Strefezza offer us a very good alternative on the other side to give us different looks against the park buses in Greece and in the Europa League? Now, all this being said, what's the verdict? Our fourth signing of the summer, in my opinion, is another solid scouted find by the club. Now, at 8 million euros, it's a risk. It's an expensive risk. But this, unfortunately, is the market for the position, guys. We've seen it. Christopher Veld sold to the MLS for 7 million euro. Dennis Mann, another player from Parma that we were looking at, just got sold for 8.5 million plus bonuses. The market for wingers is inflated. The cost is high. So a decent option, a halfway decent option, is going to cost. At Strefezza's age, there's no resale value to be had. So what we're trying to buy here is a player in his prime that can carry us to victory again in Greece and do something for us in Champions League that can take us to the next level. His ability on the ball and his proven capabilities in a top 3 league surely should offer us something in the final third. But the big question mark is, can he be viable in the press? Can Strefezza do the work that Mendilibar wants behind the ball? And I'm not sure if he can. But I do believe he has the physical traits to give it a really good shot. So while I'm not super confident, I'm not confident enough to do a 2 thumbs up here. I am giving this a thumbs up because I do think the probability is higher that he will succeed than he will fail. And even taking into account the 8 million fee and the lack of resale value. There's enough risk engaging his ability to handle the press that I can't say he's 100% thing. It's not like Scipione, who I think is a sure thing. I don't have that with Strefezza. But I do see enough in his versatility and what the profile can offer on both wings, plus what he can do behind the ball, behind the striker as well, or at the striker position, to believe that he can offer something positive in various aspects. So I'm not sure if I believe he'll necessarily outdo the production that a healthy Gelson gave us last season, but I do believe that he'll do a lot more for us in instances where Gelson could not, or where Gelson got cold. So I'm very excited about the player, all things considered, and all the other sightings, of course, that we brought in so far. I'm excited about all of them. With what we have so far in preseason, I think that the squad is looking great, guys. And this is just another addition to that. 1 or 2 more pieces, and man, we have the potential to really run away with things in Greece, assuming, something doesn't collapse or something doesn't fall apart behind closed doors. So really nice player in the end, positive outlook on him. And I think that he will offer us something for the team. I hope you guys enjoyed the scouting report for Strefezza and learn more about the player. 4th deep dive of the summer. We know there's going to be at least 2 more. There's a center back that's been talked about. Another winger should be coming. So I'll see you guys then for those scouting reports. And who knows, maybe something else will be in the pipeline for Olympiacos. Enjoy it. If you guys have any questions, you know where to reach out to me. And until next time.